This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by The Athletic, premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners can save 20% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. That's theathletic.com/DSP to subscribe to a great Detroit sports website and save 20%.
Oh my God!
Welcome to episode 15 of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. Today we got a jam show for you, filled with news and notes. We've got a review of highlights from SmackDown as well as Raw. But I think the Doc and I are going to start this show off by reviewing what was the Royal Rumble. And for that, I'd like to welcome in John the Doc Macaroon. What's going on, Doc?
Brother man, what's happening? I always enjoy wrestling. It really makes it fun doing a podcast because when you watch a wrestling show, then you can get into a little bit more. You can kind of review things, see what you liked, what you didn't like. So overall for me, the Royal Rumble was just really long, man. 4 hours was really tough.
I didn't take any of the pre-show? Because I think that started at 5.
Yeah, I took in a lot of it, from the pre-show all the way through. I even listened to Taz following the Royal Rumble.
Oh, you stayed up for that 3-hour extravaganza?
A couple hours, yeah, because of the fact that I'm really, like I said, I love wrestling. I love watching it.
That would be a long day.
It's a long day, but you do other things as well. You peek into other Detroit sports topics, but in regards to the Royal Rumble, I just don't like that in several pay-per-views you start off with AJ Styles. I understand that, the dude can wrestle and the dude is really a phenomenal athlete and really the marquee name in your company. But in terms of the pacing of the show, I feel like you could have just had the tag team match start off an event. And to have AJ Styles right then and there to start off the pay-per-view, it kind of made it so that if you watched it about halfway through, the crowd kind of fizzled out. Mm-hmm. I feel like the pacing of the show made it so that the crowd kind of popped. And then I didn't like the placement of the men's Royal Rumble, quite frankly, being, before the women's. I know it's the marquee thing and they wanted to obviously feature the debut of Ronda Rousey. But for me, basically my mental capacity started to check out after the men's Royal Rumble ended. Okay. Once then and there, it was just hard because then it was weird to kind of understand that you had championship matches kind of being filler in between the two Royal Rumble matches. But I felt like it could have been paced differently.
I agree with you. I think the pacing of the entire card was sloppy, and I think it was bad. But do you put any credence in when you're going to do a show, when you're going to do a huge show like a pay-per-view like the Royal Rumble, there's 2 spots you want to be in. You either want to be in the main event or you want to be the curtain jerk, which is the very first spot.
Right.
So I think at that point, what WWE did was they paid homage to what AJ Styles has done and what he's been able to do, and giving him the very first spot, the very first match of the show to get the crowd into it. I think that was paying homage to him and what his title means and what his title run has meant to the company. Do you buy any of that, or am I just full of hogwash here?
No, I feel like the first match kind of needs to be a good match, but it needs to be one of the lesser matches. I mean, like, I literally would have put, if you could just want to rotate it, you could have put the tag team match with Seth Rollins right then and there, because you have the men's Royal Rumble match.
Right.
Seth Rollins is putting out a lot, and then he's going right then and there, right after, to a tag team match. Come on now, that doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense.
I agree with you. I think the way the show was laid out was done very, very poorly. You could have had either the Usos versus Gable and Shelton to start, or you could have had, like you said, Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan versus The Bar to start. You could have did that, and then you could have sat there and moved into one of your title matches. But let's start to kind of break down what happened. So we had the handicap match with AJ Styles versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I thought this was a really good match. I think it started slow, and I think that played to what Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn wanted to do. I think they told a story. There was a point there where AJ Styles cut off Kevin Owens from making a tag to Sami Zayn, and Kevin Owens rolls out of the ring, runs around the ring, and then climbs back up and underneath to tag Sami Zayn. Like, I thought it was great storytelling. In the end, AJ Styles wins. I think it's the right decision.
Yep.
It builds to what they ended up doing on Tuesday night on SmackDown.
Exactly. I felt like in terms of keeping the belt on AJ Styles, no problem. I like the fact they introduced a little bit of controversy with the tag, but at the same time, like I said, I felt like it could have been better. I didn't like the beginning stretch there where they had
Too slow for you?
Yeah, I don't like the fact that they just kept doing the tag. That was silly. That was silly. Get right into it. These dudes can wrestle. I wanted to see it kick off. I didn't like that kind of silly start to the Royal Rumble.
What did you make of that move where Kevin Owens takes AJ Styles, basically does a monkey flip, and from this monkey flip, AJ Styles does his Hurricanrana on Sami Zayn. It was probably the move of the night.
Yes,
it was the
awesome.
move of the match for sure.
That was awesome. I mean, that's what AJ Styles brings. He can bring unique wrestling. Definitely.
I was like, oh my God, that was incredible.
That was awesome.
It was totally awesome.
Yes.
All right, so from there we end up moving into the Usos versus Chad Gable and Shelton Benjamin. Now this is a 2 out of 3 falls match, and I absolutely love Chad Gable. I think he is a superstar in the making. I think he's incredible. I love the Usos. I think the Usos do a great job cutting promos. I think they're excellent in the ring. I thought this match was going to be awesome. I thought it was going to be awesome. It started off really hot. The one thing I can't stand about 2 out of 3 falls matches is when you get a tag or you get a pinfall immediately in the match. You didn't have that.
Right.
This went on for probably a good 5 to 10 minutes before you got your first pinfall. What sucked about it was the Usos get the first pinfall, which was awesome. It was basically a super kick party. If you know anything about the Young Bucks, you know what a super kick party is. It was a super kick party to Chad Gable's head, and there's your first fall. Second fall comes, I don't know, 2-3 minutes later, and it was kind of just a roll-up, and I know how you feel about the roll-up. So basically the Usos shut out Gable and Shelton, and I was just kind of left there scratching my butt like, what the hell just happened here? Like, this is not how this was supposed to go. Like, I didn't care if the Usos ended up winning the match. That was fine. I didn't care about that, but I feel like Gable and Benjamin should have got something, and they got nothing here.
Exactly.
Am I out of my mind here?
No, I disagree in that sometimes what everybody thinks is going to happen is there's going to go, when it's 2 out of 3 falls, it's going to go the 3 falls. Usually the heel team will get the first fall, then the face team will get the second, and then whoever's going to win the match gets the third.
Right.
I liked it if they were going to end the match, go right to it. I thought it was surprising. I liked the fact that you kind of basically elevate the Usos, and
I felt like they were pressed for time here. Like, this match
course.
had to get in, and we had to hurry up and do it, and that's why we had the quick 2 fall.
But I liked it. I liked the fact that because most people would think it was going to go 3, it didn't, and I like the Usos because I do believe they're the preeminent tag team right now on SmackDown. So I liked it because, like I said, people kind of had thought that maybe Benjamin and Gable could go over. They didn't make it. It didn't happen, and you elevate the Usos. Sometimes when you elevate a team and then you just say, okay, it's not going to happen just yet. The Usos are the best tag team in the world right now, and one of them. So I'm definitely okay with that match. I thought it was very entertaining.
In a case of weird booking, and we both feel like it was misplaced, the Men's Royal Rumble takes place next.
I was like, wow. And then based on what happened, I would have liked to have seen what happened with the Women's Royal Rumble occur in the men's. I felt like the 2 surprises were awesome with the Hurricane and Rey Mysterio. Everyone popped, but that was basically it. I felt like, many people were saying, look, okay, it was great that you included a couple of the NXT guys, the Champion and Adam Cole. Great. But really, you could have taken out 3 guys from the Rumble and inserted maybe more NXT guys or a real, maybe someone else, maybe like an EC3 or somebody else.
I was really disappointed.
Or Bobby Lashley or somebody else a little bit more with a little bit more stature. Both Titus O'Neil and
Apollo Crews
and Goldust, probably with 3 entrants I didn't need to see in it. And you could have maybe had, Velveteen Dream. You could have had somebody else. Yep. Maybe somebody else that's a total
Aleister
shock.
Black. I thought Aleister Black was coming into this one for sure,
Exactly.
too.
So it just kind of was straightforward. I mean, I liked having Rusev started off. It was okay. But in the end, it just was, I felt like in terms from the last 5 years, probably the worst Royal Rumble that I saw. In terms
wow,
of,
that bad.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I just was straightforward, no real surprises other than, okay, the Hurricane, but dude was swole. He was, puffy. He's old.
He was puffy.
I
like how you said he was puffy.
And then why is
like
John
he's a
Cena?
puffer
Why
fish.
is John Cena in the Final Four? Why? It's not needed.
Yeah.
It's not needed. It was great to have Nakamura win. You set it up. He's the guy. He's over. He gets the push. But at the same time, I felt like I would have rated it higher if the surprise pick would have won. I think Finn Balor would have been a perfect fit to win this Rumble.
Yep. I agree with you 100%.
Because then he can set up a match.
On top of that, to open the show, you had the announcement that whoever wins the Royal Rumble
can pick
which belt they want to challenge for. So I think you're right. Finn being put in there would set up perfectly for him to go ahead and challenge AJ.
Exactly. You don't need Nakamura in there to pick AJ Styles. I think he wanted to announce it then. it just was a Royal Rumble. It was there. It didn't do nothing for me, and it was disappointing in terms of the placement. I would have just did it where it was the women's Royal Rumble, then the men's to end it out. I felt like the moment should have been with Nakamura because it's a bigger announcement. And I do think that, the way that the Ronda Rousey situation played out really ruined the Royal Rumble. I felt like they blew an opportunity to make everybody pop and to really set forth what could have really happened. And by ruining Asuka's moment by having Ronda Rousey show up there, it felt like it wasn't done right. It wasn't done properly. And so, and I don't like championship matches being filler. I don't like it at all. I like the next two matches. I felt they were okay. I mean, the tag team match went fine. Like I said, the Bar won it. I felt like it was a good match, but you set
that
up...
match had zero heat though.
Right, no heat.
There was no.
The crowd was dead.
It was totally flat because you had the Royal Rumble that just took place.
Yeah, the crowd
that.
was dead. It was tiresome, and like I said, you have to pace it a little bit better for the crowd to stay with it, and it's a long time. But Brock Lesnar won it. I felt like that was the easy angle.
Awful match.
It was the easy angle.
It was a horrid match.
It was horrid. What made it horrid too?
It was so bad. Look, I've not shied away from my comments about how I feel about Brock Lesnar.
They should have took the belt off
I feel like he is awful.
They should have took the belt off of him.
He is bad for WWE.
And it's repetitive and boring.
I think he is unsafe sometimes. There were times where he would drop Kane onto stuff like monitors.
Right, but I felt like
that is not safe. And there was an exchange between him and Braun where they were legit shooting on each other.
Yeah, they're punching each other.
Yes, Braun kicked Brock in the head.
Yeah,
and there was a point there where Brock was like, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
And then he delivered a right hook to Braun's head.
That was awesome.
But
when they slowed it down, he's got padded gloves. It wasn't fist to face. It was glove to face.
Dude, that was like UFC though. Like legit,
that was cool.
That was like a legit
You're
UFC
like, whoa,
punch.
easy with the punches.
So they were legit shooting on each other in that match. But it was a horrible match, man. It was like 7 minutes of just, what are we doing? It was just killing time.
Yeah.
And like you could have given that time to the Usos, and you could have had that Uso Chad Gable Shelton Benjamin match go on for another 7 minutes, and it had been much more entertained. This match was awful. Yeah. It was not good. Like Braun couldn't save this. Brock sucks, and Kane was just there to eat a fall. Exactly. It blew. This was your setup for what I feel like was the highlight of the night. The Women's Royal Rumble, I felt like was the best part of the night. Everything that they did, from their nostalgia pops with their entrances to the matches that took place to what happened in ring, I thought was good. There were some women that entered this, like Michelle McCool, I felt like was awful. Kelly, I thought was horrid. But what you ended up getting out of this was you got a lot of good stuff. I mean, there was some crap mixed in, but going to 30 women, I thought was rough. This is something me and my wife ended up talking about as we were going to bed after everything. She was like, why'd they do 30 women? She's like, shouldn't they have done 20? If they did 20 women, don't you think it would have been better? And I said, yes. I said, absolutely. But you know what? They shot their load and they went for 30 because, and this is the story, so many women, so many older generation women wanted to be a part of this Royal Rumble that they sat there, kicked the number out to 30, and what you got is what you got. So you got the likes of Michelle McCool, who, according to WWE, one of the greatest women champions of all time. She sucked in the ring, dude. Her first 5 minutes were awful. It was botch. I almost fell over. Botch.
Yeah.
It's not good.
And then you got to talk about Sasha Banks' worst botch probably of the year.
Dude, she missed a kick
she
by
air kicked it
3 feet.
You can't air kick in the Royal Rumble.
But I'll say this much. Lita looked incredible. She looked awesome. And Trish Stratus came out. I popped so hard. Trish was your number 30 contestant, and I jumped out of my seat. I was screaming. I was jumping up and down. I thought it was awesome. She ended up matching up with Mickie James, and they had their WrestleMania redux there, and I thought that was great. In the end, we both picked it. Asuka ends up winning.
Yep.
And the thing I did not like about how this ended, it was Asuka versus both the Bellas.
Yeah.
And at that point, you knew that neither one of the Bellas were going to win this match. You knew it was going to be Asuka. So there was no suspense there. So whoever booked the way this ended, you should have either booked it with like a Carmella, a Becky Lynch, or maybe even a Sasha Banks if you really wanted to. But you ended up getting both the Bellas. In the end, it was Nikki Bella versus Asuka, as Nikki ended up throwing Brie off the top of the ring, and Asuka wins it, and she deserved to win it. And I thought the way she won it was kind of I felt like that was a botch. She went to go do a little kind of like a shin kick, and I felt like she kind of missed on it. And then you had to leave it to Nikki to kind of sell the rest of it. But overall, I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was highly entertaining. I felt like it was one of the best matches of the night, besides your curtain jerk with AJ Styles and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
I agree with you. If you were going to have Ronda Rousey there at the Royal Rumble, you had to have her be number 30.
I agree.
That was wasted. I felt like by doing it after the fact, I felt like you ruined Asuka's moment because they just worked hard and Asuka deserved that moment. I mean, when you elevate somebody, I felt like you ruined it. You needed to have her be there number 30, and that's the way you do it. You got to pay it off because you left us without knowing what the WrestleMania main event for the women's side is going to look like.
We still don't know.
Silly.
I agree with you. I felt like it was awkward the way she came out. I felt her standing in the ring with Alexa Bliss, Charlotte, and Asuka, and then awkwardly pointing at the WrestleMania sign.
The jacket was too big.
It was.
And,
I felt like she was a deaf wrestler.
Yeah,
like because she didn't talk, she didn't say anything. She just smiled a lot, and she just kind of pointed at stuff, and she took it all in, which was cool because you could see this was a big moment for her. She went over, awkwardly shook Stephanie's hand, which I didn't necessarily get because they're supposed to have heat. It felt really disjointed the way it ended, but Vince got what Vince wanted because the next day, that's all that was talked about.
Exactly.
It was all that was talked about. All right, so looking at calling the card, Doc got 4.5 out of a possible 8 points. Now, there's a possible 8 points because each match counts as one. If you nailed the right pick for the Royal Rumbles, you got an extra point. You got a half a point for your secondary pick. So in this case, you missed on the Usos, you missed on Brock, and you had Roman winning the Royal Rumble as your primary call, but you had Nakamura as your number 2. So you get a half a point there. So you get 4.5 out of 8 points. I got 6 out of 8 points. I missed on the Usos and I missed on the Bar. So I totally blew it with the tag matches. I had Nakamura winning and I had Asuka winning, so I got my bonus points there. In the end, I lead you now 2.5 to half.
So I'm not good in the prediction game. That's just the way it is. It's all you can do, right? Try your best.
You're working towards it.
All right.
I'll be honest with you. I was nervous.
Yeah,
I was nervous. So I sat down and looked at everything.
So going forward, following the Royal Rumble, man, Philly got it great. They got NXT, they got the Royal Rumble, they got Raw, and they got SmackDown. Raw and SmackDown were okay. I mean, for shows that occur following a major pay-per-view, I felt like, okay, now they're starting to put forth what's going to happen next in the next pay-per-view. But some things on Raw that I did not like. I mean, John Cena, Finn Balor is not a Raw match. That's a match you got to put. I mean, it was nice to see it, but I would not have put it on Raw. I felt like you could have had a build up there. You could have did it, maybe separately for the Elimination Chamber for a chance. But unfortunately, the Elimination Chamber is an opportunity now to face Brock Lesnar and things like that. So that's a big thing because of the fact that the Royal Rumble winner is going to be a SmackDown thing. So I guess I like it that the Elimination Chamber is going to be deciding the winner of that is going to go on to WrestleMania. I just felt like, okay, you have that match, which you shouldn't have, but then John Cena's in the Elimination Chamber, not Finn Balor. Come on, bro. John Cena's job is to put over these guys, not to take places.
I don't know how much more dirt you can put on Finn before he just suffocates.
That was dirty.
Underneath his burial.
That was dirty.
This is a point where you need to start to elevate Finn, right?
Yeah.
Finn had a great run in the Royal Rumble. He was one of the final 4. John Cena put him out. So you could have came back the next night, and you could have had Cena take on Finn and challenge him again, and it could have been a really good match, and you could have let Finn get a win here. At some point, you need to let Finn get a win. And Cena was so distracted by that Philly crowd. You mean to tell me that a half-interested, a half-paying attention John Cena is that much better than Finn Balor?
Right.
I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And speaking of the Elimination Chamber, we are going to have a first ever Women's Elimination Chamber match. That's going to be at the next Raw pay-per-view. Now, what they're doing with the women's division, I like a lot of it. I like a lot of it. I really feel like they're doing a good job. However, I feel like they're really rushing a lot of everything with the women. I feel like if you were to have a game plan and you were to kind of break this stuff down over the course of, 2 or 3 years, I feel like it would be much, much better. You could have saved the Women's Elimination Chamber match for next year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't have to give us everything right away.
Right.
Save it and kind of just slowly release it. Make it big events over the course of like a 3-year period. I think you'd be doing yourself some justice if you're WWE. Instead, you're like, here you go, women get all this stuff right now. Here you go. And I just feel like you're missing an opportunity to really present it and build it up.
Exactly.
And kind of deliver it in a different manner and make it seem like it's more meaningful and give each event its own spotlight.
Exactly.
Speaking of spotlights, we still have no idea who Asuka's facing.
Right.
She spoke in a lot of Japanese, and I've got no clue. So I guess that's going to build for another week.
I like that The Miz kept the belt. Very awesome.
Yes.
Very good. Let him propel, and he deserves the push that he's getting right now. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. Rumor is that The Miz and Braun will be meeting at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental belt. So that's going to be interesting. Deserves to be watched. I think at this point, Roman's going to get his shot next week for the Elimination Chamber. He'll end up winning because it's supposed to be Roman versus Brock at WrestleMania. So watch for that.
What do you think was the best moment of Raw?
I thought the best moment was probably that Asuka-Sasha Banks match.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that Sasha Banks got Asuka in a bank statement like 9 different times, and Asuka wouldn't tap. But Asuka gets her in her finishing submission move, and what was it, the Asuka lock? Is that what it's called? And she taps out, and then you have this cutaway of Sasha Banks laying neck down on the mat and looking up at the sky, and she has a tear running down on her cheek there. I thought that was awesome. I thought it was a great match. There were some points there where I thought Sasha Banks legitimately could have hurt herself, but I thought it was great, man. And then the other thing I took away from Raw was, God, I really do miss Jonathan Coachman.
Yes.
Him being on the call
way better,
made it
more personality,
so much more enjoyable.
More personality, more smooth. Just
you can understand what he's saying. It doesn't sound like he's got a mouthful of marbles covered in peanut butter like Booker T.
Much better. Upgrade.
Yes, definite upgrade. There might be some heat though between him and Michael Cole. This is going to bear some listening to, like, because you can't watch them, but you got to listen to them. At certain points, Michael Cole seemed to be very this is how it has to be, and it just seemed like they were kind of jockeying back and forth for some positioning. I don't know. It bears listening to. So I mean, that was kind of my take from Raw. I thought it was a good show. I didn't think it was great by any means.
Exactly.
I thought there were some really good things from it, but I thought there were some real lows from it as well.
No doubt about it. Now let's switch over to SmackDown. Okay, good. I mean, it kind of had a natural feel that you would start and you'd have AJ Styles and Nakamura set up against, the guys that are complaining, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Awesome, because I thought going into Tuesday's show, I was like, this just seems like the natural progression, right? You're going to have a tag match with these two guys versus these two guys. And we ended up getting it.
Yep.
And good. I'm glad I'm not the only one who felt that way. Mm-hmm. Something I really liked out of it. I liked the action from the Fatal 4-Way to face Bobby Roode for the U.S. Championship.
Yep.
I thought it was quality. I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good match. You had good competitors in there who could do good things. In the end, Rusev wins. And
push him to the moon, baby.
Yeah.
Let's get him going.
I think that's going to be good. And you know what? I think if you're WWE, you're now at a spot where you can put the belt on Rusev, right? Bobby Roode had a defense of it already. One time was at the Royal Rumble, was in the pre-show. Fine. You can put the belt on Rusev now. Let him carry the strap, and you can now give Bobby Roode his heel turn. Yep. Bobby Roode has been setting up and projecting towards a heel turn, and he's a better heel than he is a face. So let him lose his strap. Let this be the thing that pushes him over. Let this be the thing that makes him a heel. And I think if you're WWE, you now have a guy in Rusev who is so very over. You can push him to the moon, and you've got Bobby Roode who would be a better heel, and let him go do his own thing, and you got a superstar right there. I think it would be awesome.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Rusev is a very interesting character. I do think that, if he's got a strap, then he can kind of do some things with it, continue to elevate it. But at the same time, I like Bobby Roode. I do believe that if he becomes a heel, maybe this is how you can maybe transition that, is to do some things heelish towards Rusev.
Yep.
And that's how you can kick it off. But, in the end, I do believe that if this is the way they're going to go and it's going to be Rusev versus Bobby Roode, you got to put the belt on Rusev.
I think so too.
And then you just make it so that Bobby Roode's the heel. This is how you flip him over.
Yep. Do you think you make Rusev a face, or do you
Rusev is a face.
Okay.
He's got to stay a face.
I agree.
He's
awesome.
He's super over.
Super over.
The crowd loves it.
Dude, when Lana came out, she got a Rusev day.
That's it.
Something else I liked. I liked the back and forth between the Riot Squad and Charlotte. Charlotte came out to cut a promo and to talk about what happened the night before. Mm-hmm. Riot Squad interrupted all of this. And I just think Ruby Riot is so great on the microphone.
Yep.
And I think she is heads and tails over everybody else in that group. And it appears to me that they're riding her coattails at this point.
Exactly.
Because she is so good on the stick, dude. She is so good. Something else I liked, I did like the AJ Styles Nakamura versus Kevin Owens Sami Zayn match. I thought it was interesting because we're building towards something here. They're now putting some dissent between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. AJ Styles and Nakamura end up winning, of course. It seems like it's a little bit too early for a breakup, but you've got some dissent there between the two. And I'm not sure if they're going to build towards this whole thing where next week you've got Kevin Owens taking on Sami Zayn for a shot at the strap. It appears Kevin Owens may need some time off. Now, he is dealing with a back injury. He's been dealing with a back injury since we had the Hell in the Cell. Like the spot where Shane McMahon went to go jump off the cell and land on Kevin Owens. Like, it took everything Kevin Owens had to get into a position for Sami Zayn to be able to pull him off. Like, he almost died. Like, legitimately, he almost died because Shane McMahon legitimately almost impaled him. So he's dealing with a nagging back injury. It seems like he's going to need some time away. So maybe you do break them up. Maybe this allows Kevin Owens some time to go away so we can kind of rehabilitate his back injury. I don't know. I found it interesting, though, when I was watching the way this match was unfolding, that it's so quick for them to kind of be going back and forth and arguing with each other and possibly be breaking up. But if they do it and they do break up, I think it buys Kevin Owens a little bit of time to go away and to heal his back, and then he can come back for Mania. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. I just watching it, I was like, okay. Like, I was trying to put it together. Like, why? It's too soon.
Right.
Too soon for all of this, but it makes sense.
It does make sense.
Okay.
Before we get to news and notes, how do you think AJ Styles and Nakamura are going to build heat? Because that first way of introducing it is kind of like, okay, they're cool now.
Yes.
How do you introduce heat with these dudes?
That's a good question. I haven't even thought about this. I don't know.
Or do you think are they going to develop heat? Because it seems like right now it's a mutual respect kind of thing.
It
but
is.
I think a match will be better. You have a long time to develop it until WrestleMania, but you got to find a way to get heat on these dudes because you're not going to have them just kind of going with mutual respect this whole time.
No, you know what? We do have a pay-per-view still before we get to WrestleMania. I think what you're going to have is you're going to have these two guys who have mutual respect for each other, mutual admiration. They are friendly with each other. I think at some point, though, there's going to be a match where something happens. They're going to be as a tag team. There's going to be a match where something happens where somebody blows a spot. Maybe Nakamura kicks AJ in the face, and that's going to be your turning point. You know, something else has to happen, and we do have some time, like you said. So I'm not sure how it's going to work out, but it would strike me as these two being as a tag team. Somebody misses a spot, that spot builds the heat, it's the turning point, and we're kind of off from there. And I think that's the only way you can do it. Which show did you think was better?
I thought SmackDown was better.
Did you?
I did. I felt like all around, I felt like I was more engaged with it. There weren't that many moments I did not like, and I just felt like it was smooth, and it had me engaged, and I started to kind of feel like, okay, the SmackDown side of things with Charlotte, with AJ Styles, Nakamura, with Rusev, they're starting to kind of get it back, and you got more. I'm more interested in the storylines there than I am with what's going on at Raw, because what's going on at Raw is, okay, great. It's great to see Braun Strowman destroy things, but where's it going to end up in the payoff? When's he going to get the belt? I mean, he can destroy things every week. That's fine. But in the end, I'm like, there was only maybe a couple matches I was really cool with. And the storylines coming out of Raw, I'm not really down with. And I just felt like the way they handled Cena in terms of injecting him into the Elimination Chamber, I wasn't cool with at all.
I agree with you. I felt like it was more of a seamless approach on SmackDown side. I felt like Raw had higher highs, but it had lower lows. So when I look over the grand scheme of things, look, we have a 3-hour show, and yeah, there was some really, really good stuff, but there was also some really, really bad stuff. And I felt like some of it was a little disjointed. Whereas SmackDown, maybe not as many high highs, but definitely not as many lows. And it seemed to have a logical layout to it. It didn't seem so herky-jerky. It seemed like it was a much better put-together show, and that's what I really liked out of it.
All right, hit me with the news and notes. What's going down in the world of wrestling this week, cuz?
All right, so Vince obviously is bringing back the XFL. He had a press conference last week. He's now targeting January of 2020. It's going to be an 8-team league that will consist of 10 games. You'll have 2 conference games before you have your actual championship game for your finality there. Rumor is they want to bring The Rock back and pair him with Ronda Rousey to tag and face Triple H and Stephanie McMahon at Mania. That kind of cleans up on the WrestleMania 31 back and forth storyline that you had. So I think that'll be interesting if that's what happens. I'm interested to see what Ronda Rousey does when she talks on the microphone. I'm assuming she can cut a promo. I have no idea. The whole Ronda Rousey bit from the Royal Rumble has garnered a lot of heat. Nia Jax was posting on Twitter about it. She was pretty peeved off. Sasha Banks is pretty peeved off with the whole Ronda Rousey thing. The whole thing, like you said, casted a little bit of a shadow on what should have been a really bright spot for everybody else. Former TNA and Impact executive and all-around jack of all trades, Jeremy Borash. If you know anything about Jeremy Borash, he has worn many, many hats in TNA/Impact. Anything from being a guy who helped get the whole broken gimmick off the ground to a guy who does a lot of the editing of the show, a guy who has done a lot of putting matches together and being on the booking side. Basically anything that needed to be done, Jeremy Borash, at his time at TNA, has done it. He's now jumping to WWE to help out on the yellow and black brand. That's NXT. Kenny Omega, it's official. He's been kicked out of the Bullet Club.
Oh, out.
He the other last weekend he lost his IWGP US title to Switchblade Jay White. We talked about that when Jay White ended up losing to Tanahashi. We thought that Jay White was in a spot where you needed to elevate him. The way they're going to elevate him is by taking the U.S. title strap off of Kenny Omega, putting it on Jay White. Cody Rhodes ends up coming out, starts an argument. This brought out the rest of the guys. In the end, Cody hits Kenny with the crossroads, grabs a chair to start to do more damage. That's when Kenny Omega's former tag team partner, Kota Ibushi, comes out. Now remember, Cody Rhodes was about to smash Kota Ibushi's head in with a chair when Kenny stepped in and broke that up. So you got a little something here. Like, the way New Japan does stuff is so awesome, dude. It is so great. So Kota Ibushi comes out, saves him. Kenny and Kota are going to reunite. So it's going to be interesting to watch there. Also, it's being speculated that Big Show is preparing for his comeback, as he is now healthed up. You remember, we haven't seen Big Show since he was tossed through that cage by Braun Strowman, and that was so he could go get some time away to deal with some nagging injuries. So he sounds like he's better, so expect to see Big Show coming back.
Nice. What do you think his role should be? Mid-card guy, elevate some more people?
Yeah, you know what would be cool to see? Because I always like the big guy and the little guy. And I think his personality mixed with a guy like Zack Ryder would be awesome. Gotcha. I think it would be awesome. You put those two together, it helped elevate Zack Ryder, because I feel like Zack Ryder's a really good guy. I feel like he's really good in the ring. He's good on the stick. So you put him with Big Show, man. I think that'd be fun to watch.
Neat.
So yeah, that's all I got for news and notes, bro.
Good week of wrestling. I like to see now the WrestleMania build-up. It'll be fascinating to see which matches are set up for the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Elimination Chamber will be interesting. I know they're hyping it up. I can't wait for the next pay-per-view. It's good stuff right now. I think Raw's got to do a better job of elevating more people to get more interesting.
I think Raw's
to have John Cena interjected there is really
it doesn't make sense. And you know what? Look, I understand that they want to get, because Elias is in the Elimination Chamber, so I understand you want to build that some more. Okay, cool.
You want to build up the Revival, but not at the expense of the Bullet Club. Come on.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense, man.
And the Revival's too small. They're too small of a tag team to be believable. Yeah, they're too small to be believable as a badass tag team.
Do you think so?
They're too small. They're smaller dudes.
I don't think so.
I think the team to elevate is Gallows and Anderson. Let them destroy. They got to destroy some people. Gallows and Anderson is a tag team that you can elevate similar to the Bar. I mean, that's the next feud that would be awesome, is the Bar versus Gallows and Anderson.
You know what I was just thinking? Because you were like, how are we going to get to break up AJ and Nakamura? What are we going to do? At some point, you got to get Finn, and you got to get you got to get the Balor Club. It's Balor Club. You got to get Finn and the Balor Club over to SmackDown, right? And I feel like those guys would thrive on the blue brand. Mm-hmm. You bring Finn and you bring the Balor Club over, and they jump Nakamura, and it's all at the behest
of AJ
Styles.
Oh, there you go.
And now you've got AJ and Finn, Bullet Club members, if you remember, along with the rest of the Balor Club, and they somehow absorb into one unit there. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I'm interested to see if they actually, because I do think they want to push AJ Styles individually.
I think so too.
He's the superstar.
It's just something that popped in my head. That's
all right.
You know what I'd like to see, though, before we leave? What I'd like to see, and this goes back to when we were kids, and this is something I think WWE has gotten away from. I'd like to see them build, pay-per-view, end of build, new storyline, build, pay-per-view, end, new storyline. Do you know what I'm saying? There's too many of these. We've got basically 4 to 6 weeks between a pay-per-view where you go build, pay-per-view. All right, we get done with the pay-per-view. Now we've got to keep building this story. What are we doing? Because the storyline is just going to end in 2 weeks, not at a pay-per-view. The pay-per-view should be the finality of a build, and it should be the start of a new story. And we're not getting that. It's always seeming like it's ending like on a random Monday or a random Tuesday in the middle of, I don't know, March, where there's no pay-per-view going on. It's just there. The story just died. And I'm getting kind of tired of that. I feel like WWE needs to do a better job, kind of go back to like when we were kids, where those storylines would end on pay-per-views.
Gotcha. Makes
sense.
sense.
Like it'd be better.
All right, if you like this podcast and you like the other podcasts on the network, go visit our website, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network during any major wrestling event at Detroit Podcast. Follow our friends at the Breaking Down the Ring podcast. They're live every single Wednesday, 9 p.m. on the Podcast Detroit Network. See everybody next week.